Shane Conto, your Wasteland reviewer, and welcome to the Cinematic Wasteland here on the SPDM Crew Podcasting Network. And this is our monthly show where, three guys' passion for film takes us through the history of cinema. And I'm joined by Luke
Hello.
and Adam.
Hi, everyone. I didn't know
And
what I was going to do
that's
Save it.
okay.
there.
Just dropped it on you last minute. So, but we're going to be talking about some film history for 1927, dabble in some box office numbers, and then talk about our film for the month, where we talk about one film released from the year, and that's The Cat and the Canary. We got a spoopy movie where I feel like a lot of like tropes of haunted house movies came from, for sure.
100%.
If
Yeah.
you ever watched the intro to Scooby-Doo and saw a little hand trying to grab somebody from off screen, that happened in this movie. So there you go. So obviously, those who created Scooby-Doo definitely watched this movie at some point.
Yeah.
But let's get some history in here. So we have Fox released They're Coming to Get Me, a 5-minute black and white short that was first talkie using movie tone system. The first feature film released using the Fox movie tone system was Sunrise, directed by F.W. Murnau, the first professionally produced feature film with actual soundtrack.
Is it Sunrise Tale of Two Humans?
Mm-hmm.
That's a great fucking movie. That's an
I
awesome movie.
Really? Check
That
that
movie
out.
blew me away when I watched
Yeah.
that for the first time.
Yeah.
I'm just like casually watching a movie from 1927. I'm like, I did not casually expect to be like, holy crap, this movie was incredible.
Yes. That's so great, honestly. Okay.
1927 was an interesting year for German cinema with Sunrise and then Metropolis. Next up, the effective end of the silent era of films came when Warner Brothers produced and debuted The Jazz Singer, the first widely screened feature-length talkie musical or movie with recorded dialogue. Popular vaudevillian Al Jolson starred as the titular character who provided audio with a sound-on-disc technology using the Vitaphone system, which consisted of a few songs by Jolson and a few lines of synchronized dialogue. In his nightclub act in the film, Jolson presented the movie's first spoken ad-libbed words. Wait a minute, you ain't heard nothing yet. The film had about 350 spontaneously ad-libbed words.
Wow.
So cinema has changed. We have sound.
We've arrived. Yeah, we're here, boys. We're finally here.
Mhm.
We made it out of the silent era.
Yep.
So been an interesting journey
The
for
milestone.
about 20 months
Mhm.
of doing the show with you guys or without you guys. And what they kindly forgot to, or probably didn't include, is don't forget, not only did it have sound, but it had plenty of blackface for you too.
Mhm.
Mm.
Just gonna casually leave that out of the description about the jazz singer. But, it was a different time 98 years ago.
Very
So,
different.
That was-
which is wild. We're within 100 years of now, which is a
Mhm.
pretty
Yeah.
exciting thought. Next up, we
Damn.
have Fox's Movie Tone newsreel. The first sound news film was produced. The first recording of a news event was the takeoff of Charles Lindbergh's plane from New York on May 20th, 1927. On his historic flight across the Atlantic to Paris, the inspiration to create Movie Tone news.
Mm.
Okay.
There you go. Pretty famous event. What they didn't tell you was he also brought all of his fascism with him. But
Yeah.
leave that part out. So, what a wild time back in the 20s.
I think
It would have
like
been.
soon we will be like we are in 30s. We'll be saying that a lot. What a wild time,
Yep.
And this
Yeah.
this Germany is doing this now. Oh, it's 30s. What is Germany up to now? Oh, I wonder.
The 1920s, great Jewish German filmmakers. The 1930s, where did all the Jewish filmmakers go? What's with this fascism?
What do you mean,
So,
alien? What do you
follows
mean,
them
alien
around.
race?
Follows them around. Now it's when you're saying Germany, it's more likely to be the US to bring it
well,
all
yeah,
back out of control.
yeah, all of them just jump ship to America. They're like, goodbye.
Mm. Mm.
Fritz Lang making American movies now.
Mm-hmm.
Next up, we have at the height of his career during the decade of the 1920s, comedian Buster Keaton, known as the Great Stoneface, who equally rivaled silent comic director star Charlie Chaplin, made many short films and 12 feature films, including his timeless masterpiece, The General, from 1927. It was regarded as one of the greatest silent comedies and Keaton's own favorite, and undoubtedly the best train film ever made. The chase
Mm.
comedy based on a true Civil War incident received both poor reviews by critics, it was considered tedious and disappointing, and weak box office results, about $500,000 when initially released in the late 20s. And it led to Keaton's loss of independence as a filmmaker and a restrictive deal with MGM. It would take many decades for the film to be hailed as one of the best ever made. His distinctive films were noted for their trademark wit, satire, acrobatic agility, and stunt work and fantasy. Other well known works at the time included Our Hospitality from 1923, The Navigator from 1924, which we
Mm-hmm.
did here, Sherlock
Mm.
Jr. from 1924, and Steamboat Bill Jr. from 1928.
Yep. And General
Mm.
is such a great movie too. That's, like again, like when he said,
Yeah,
the best to like train, yeah, like that train sequence you will remember.
it's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
The way that holds up today is insanely good.
Mm-hmm.
What's crazy is I was just recording the Sif Pop Writers Room podcast about Bridge on the River Kwai
Ah,
Ah.
yeah.
and talking about,
Another
them
spectacular
yeeting
movie.
an actual train off a cliff.
Mm.
30 years before that, Buster Keaton was doing the same
Yeah.
thing. And he's
Uh,
like, you remember, folks, there was no CGI back then. These were actual trains getting yeeted
there
off
was no
actual cliffs.
Yep.
there was no work health and safety standards either.
What great
Just
times 100 years
throwing a
ago.
sleeper in front of a train, you're like lucky you didn't derail on top of him or something. Bananas.
Yeah, this is a dangerous movie. Like,
Mm.
it's like we talk about Tom Cruise and all of his stunts and stuff like that. Like, Buster
Yeah,
Keaton probably
yeah.
could have died like 100 separate times filming
Yeah.
this movie.
Easily. Easily.
Mm-hmm.
Next up, we have director Abel Gantz's celebrated epic silent film Napoleon from 1927 in France, premiered in Paris, France, over 100 years after the military leader's death in 1821. It pioneered with its experimental widescreen and multi screen effects. It also exhibited rapid fire editing influenced by Eisenstein's Potemkin. 1925, freewheeling camera movement influenced by Murnau, and a unique multi projector system. The final sequence was to be screened via triple projection as a triplich. It was the precursor to the widescreen Cinerama process that debuted in 1952. So I know one human being who has watched this like 5 hour Napoleon movie, and that's our buddy Rowan Wood.
Oh,
And
really?
soon I'll watch it too. Like no, I was just checking the Letterboxd 250, and Napoleon is like now 220 best rated movie of on that platform. I'm like, now I've heard so much about it. I need to watch it.
Just because it's long, please. I know you love
I
a long film, Luke. 5 hours. Is it a silent film or is it talking?
Yes.
No, it's silent.
It
Yeah,
is silent. 5 hour silent film. That's when I go to hell, that's what's
I
going to
was
be
gonna
on
say
for
that's your
me.
definition of hell. Yes, I
It
know.
Well,
would be.
Adam beat me to the punch because I was indeed going to make a joke that we would have picked Napoleon, but we wanted to protect Adam's sanity. Um,
I would have called in sick that day.
it's like the sick boys
Oh, I've
can't
got
come on
COVID. We'll
this month.
reschedule. We'll reschedule. No, I've got COVID then too. I'll make
COVID's too
sure
electric
I've got it.
boogaloo.
Yep.
Yeah.
Now we got director Fritz Lang's classic dystopian vision of the future, the expressionistic Metropolis, which came out of Germany in 1927, set in the year 2000.
No.
Ooh.
It's Y2K, baby.
There we go.
Mhm.
Exploited massive sets and lavish set design, clever special effects, stylistic shadowing, oblique camera angles and labyrinths, and physical effects like realistic miniatures, one of their first uses, and hydraulically produced flooding. It was considered a costly box office disaster at the time, and its notorious German producer, the UFA, I'm not going to attempt to pronounce what that stands for, had to be bailed out. I didn't practice beforehand. Bailed out by United States interests. Brigitte Helm served as the film's real Maria, an oppressed working girl, and as the evil robotic doppelganger of herself, cinematic history's first android or robot,
Yep.
which
Yep.
Wow.
it is a really awesome designed robot and everything. This legitimately is one of my favorite movies. I love
I need to watch
Metropolis,
this
and
film.
Kino Lorber has a beautiful
Mm.
remastered version of this film.
I need to rewatch it. Like that's again been so long. I've watched it when I was young, but I still really liked it. So I need to rewatch that as well. Like 1927, low-key fucking fire year for movies. Like Sunrise,
Yeah.
Metropolis, Sunrise. No, I already said that. What was the third one? It was General. Yeah, I was
Mm.
I was thinking Buster Keaton, but I said Sunrise twice. No, very
Sunrise
good.
Keaton, new nickname.
Mm.
There you go. But no, Metropolis is an epic science fiction film, and when I've daydreamed about being a filmmaker, the one movie I would want to remake is Metropolis because I would love to see it
Mm.
with modern technology and everything. But you
Mm.
I
got to
wonder if
do it
they'd
right.
allow it.
Yep.
Practical effects.
Mm.
Like, I'm going to be
Yeah.
first, I have to start a vineyard, make a bunch of money off of it, and then sell it so that I can bankroll this myself and make it my own way.
Okay, calm down, Francis Ford
Totally,
Coppola.
definitely not ripping off a fellow Paisan. Um, and his strategy for making his own movies. Um, but yeah, so Metropolis, excellent film, would highly recommend. We have the
Mhm.
Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences was founded. So
Woohoo!
next episode we'll actually be talking about the Academy Awards. And 36 members composed of actors, directors, writers, technicians, and producers. The organization's first president was Douglas Fairbanks Sr., and its
Oh.
first award ceremony was held in 1929 to honor films 1927 and 1928.
Mhm.
So, wow, they only started with 36 members. It was less than the Hollywood Foreign Press Association.
Yeah.
um, I wonder if they watched all the movies that were nominated.
I
Oh
think
God.
back then you just what is it? Five
They
Five
would
movies.
have, yeah.
movies.
Yeah.
Five movies made up all the nominations. Just like, oh my god, I couldn't finish the fifth one. The first four were too much.
Yep.
Who
All
nominated
right.
this Napoleon film? I don't have five acts. Napoleon indeed was not nominated for an Academy Award, but
Nope.
I'm just being fresh at this point. But yes, we will be talking about the Academy Awards starting our next episode. Motion picture film became standardized at 24 frames per second.
Mm.
That is the shortest one of these entries here, so you're all welcome. Um, Next up, the prison comedy silent film The Second 100 Years marked the official debut of Stan Laurel and Ollie Hardy as the comedy duo, although they had previously worked together for about 10 years. It was the first of Hal Roach's comedy series that paired and featured the two as a formal screen team. I love
Mm.
Laurel and Hardy. I
Me too.
love
Even
that
though
film, Stan and Ollie, that they
I
made a
still
couple.
haven't seen that, but I don't think I've seen many Lauren Hardy's actual movies. So I need to definitely that's a blind spot for me, and I want to see that movie after because I've heard good things about the Stan and Ollie movie.
I watched the first maybe 25 minutes of it and just never went back to it for some silly reason.
Hmm.
John C. Riley and Steve Coogan were a great
Yeah.
pairing for that for sure. John C. Riley in his very large fat suit. Uh, in it. Next up, we have British director Alfred Hitchcock releases his third film, the suspense film The Lodger, aka The Lodger, a story of the London fog, a tale about an Avenger based upon the Jack the Ripper's serial killings. Hitchcock's first credited and completed film, The Pleasure Garden, was released in the United States in 1926, but delayed for release in the UK until 27. Following The Lodger's success, the film was notable as being Hitchcock's first true film, his first suspense film, his earliest film that survived in its entirety, and the first with a trademark cameo appearance.
Mm.
Hitchcock is off to the races. I am sure we'll
Mm-hmm.
hear about him many times as we go
Mm,
through our history here for sure.
I'm
we
sure.
sure will.
Somebody here I heard is a big Hitchcock fan too.
I wonder who
Mm.
that'd be.
Be all of us, isn't it? All of us? Oh no, it's not just me.
I was gonna say, like, I feel like,
Well, to
but I
be
think
fair,
there's one.
I was
Go,
about to
go.
say Adam's one of the biggest Hitchcock fans I know, but yes, I am a fan of
Mm.
Hitchcock.
Same,
I feel like
same.
if you love movies, you kind of have to be,
It's one of
unless
those
you're
default.
weird.
So
Yeah,
good.
like it's one of those like almost default names, right? Like you don't have to love him as a person because apparently he wasn't that great, like especially to his actors, infamously. But like as
Well,
far as movie going people, like that's one of those default names like Spielberg at this point, like Hitchcock,
yeah,
Spielberg. You
yeah,
kind of have
yeah,
to be familiar with their game.
Because they
Yeah,
yeah.
changed the game
I would
for sure.
agree.
correct,
Yeah.
correct.
And I
I think
wonder if
what
him and
attracts me a
Kubrick.
lot to
Oh, go ahead,
uh,
Adam.
sorry, what attracts me a lot to Hitchcock is not just his filmmaking, it's the legend behind him, in that he wasn't appreciated properly in his time.
Mm-hmm,
Well, he was appreciated. People loved his films, but it wasn't until Psycho really that he was really, really big.
mm-hmm,
I guess he launched a genre, but he had massive films before that. But most of his films didn't become what they are until well down the track. Like that's what I mean. He was so ahead of his time. He's like Prince for me. Prince is also was ahead of his time, and he's dead. He's getting more recognition than I've ever seen him get recognized for
mm-hmm.
before. So that's similar to me. Yeah.
But many giants, have that kind of aura about it. Like, they are not
Mm,
as appreciated. Like many movies, like, how many Kubrick movies flopped at the box office or not really made any
yeah. Yeah.
decent return, but he was still regarded
Well,
highly, even though again,
another guy played hell on his actors.
I was gonna say even though again
Mm,
he was
mm,
also really hard to be
mm.
around based on some reports. So hey,
I wonder
William
if
Friedkin was the same, so I'm starting to learn as
mm,
well.
mm,
There's this David Fincher. Go
well,
on.
I wonder if Hitchcock and Kubrick had a competition to see who could treat their actors the worst.
I think I think Kubrick would have won.
I think Kubrick probably would have won.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
um, just as Shelley Duvall.
Hmm.
Um, that is like emotional abuse
yeah.
at that point.
No, 100%. Yeah.
Next up, here it is. We have the Hayes office issued a production code memorandum, don'ts and be carefuls, a code of decency telling the studio's 11 taboos or things to avoid in the don'ts section, and
Ooh.
26 items in the be carefuls section,
Oh,
including profanity, licentious or suggestive nudity,
Hmm.
illegal traffic in drugs, any inference of sex perversion, white slavery.
So black
oh.
slavery is fine,
Uh,
but white slavery we cannot have that.
what?
Cool, cool, cool,
um,
cool.
That's why history has been washed because they wouldn't allow it. Like, and
Hmm.
that's where people get their entertainment from. Like, people don't realize there were white slaves.
Hmm.
um,
Wow.
miscegenation, sex, hygiene, and venereal diseases, scenes of actual childbirth, children's sex organs, ridicule of the clergy,
Of course, yes.
and willful offense to any nation, race, or creed. except for
That
black
didn't
people.
stop him, did
I
it?
was gonna say that doesn't match with that doesn't match
Yeah,
with
that's
many things.
That was a Shane added clause in the sentence
yeah.
that was not actually on here, nor was it on the Hays Code. So
Mm. It's wild. That's so fucking wild. Like some of them are
Mm.
obviously like, we shouldn't shoot naked children. 100% agree. Like, like all,
Yes.
there's no argument there. And some of them are like, uh, what was it about the nudity? Like luscious or like, what was it?
Lascivious?
Like
licentious,
licentious
Licentious.
and
licentious or suggestive
see,
nudity.
that's the thing. So suggestive nudity. So therefore, does that mean if the nudity is not those things, he can show it? Hmm. Hmm? I'm just asking.
It's interesting.
Just
Mm.
asking.
Grauman's Chinese Theater opened in Hollywood, California on Hollywood Boulevard with the premiere of Cecil B. DeMille's King of Kings. It soon became famed for hand and footprints of various film stars and celebrities. The first stars to leave their imprints in concrete were Mary Pickford and Douglas Fairbanks II on April 30th, Norma Talmadge on May 18th, Norma Shearer on August 1st, Harold Lloyd on November 21st, and William S. Hart on November 28th. And I also
Huh.
wonder, how did Douglas Fairbanks do all those stunts with such small feet?
Yeah, I've heard he had like their small feet, right? Is that true?
Is that a joke from someplace or
Yeah, I'm quoting Blazing Saddles.
I was
Um, it's
Ah,
when
yes.
Headley
I knew
gets
that was
shot and
familiar.
then he falls down and he's just like, they do all of those stunts with such small feet. It
Yes,
was like his last line before he dies.
that's
Mm.
fantastic.
I love Mel Brooks. He definitely will be my next hand-picked director for my Welcome to the
Hmm.
Wasteland show.
Well, he
Um,
only made like 13 movies, right? So like that's an
it'll be a
easy.
breeze. It'll be a
Yeah,
nice
yeah.
easy one. MGM's mystery horror film London After Midnight, a lost film, was directed by Todd Browning's first Hollywood vampire film, with star Lon Chaney, the man of 1,000 faces, in the role of Professor Edward C. Burke of Scotland Yard, a sunken and dark-eyed vampirish character. The film existed until 1967 and then was destroyed in a massive MGM vault fire in 67. The silent film was one of the first horror films directed by Todd Browning 4 years before his vampiric classic, Dracula, starring Bela Lugosi. It was notable for being one of Chaney's last feature films before his death in 1930. Chaney and Browning had collaborated together on 10 feature films over a decade. Chaney became the first American horror film star and Hollywood's first great character actor. London After Midnight made an estimated $721,000 from a production budget of $152,000, the highest grossing film from Browning and Chaney. If Chaney had not died at the age of 47 of throat cancer, he would have been first replacing Bela Lugosi in the. Oh, sorry. He would have been Todd Browning's first choice to play the lead role in 1931's Dracula, replacing Bela Lugosi. In the early 2000s, on the 75th anniversary of the film, an attempt at restoration of the film created from 200 stills and film scripts with a duration of 45 minutes was aired on Turner Classic Movie Channel. I actually watched that on YouTube.
Hmm. Okay. How was
Oh,
it?
okay.
It's an interesting experience.
Hmm.
And what's interesting is I liked it enough and got enough out of it that I actually really enjoyed the movie. And I'm like, damn it, how I want to actually watch this movie. But
See,
alas, it'll never happen.
I was gonna say fucking fires, man. Like we've lost so many earlier movies because oh, it was stored in this big fucking vault and whoopsie daisy, it's flammable material and it just burst
Yeah.
into flames. And I
Mm.
like look, it's not like we are running out of movies anytime soon, right? But imagine how many careers retrospectively and how many actors, producers, directors that could have had like a second admiration now had we
Mm.
had their proper filmography and not been lost
Yep.
in a fire someplace or lost in a fucking that. I'm so yeah, that
My
just makes me
John
sad.
Ford series would have lasted 120 weeks
I know.
instead of
Mm.
80.
Yep.
Really, that many?
I'd still be on it
Yep.
for another year plus. So, but
You'd be
no,
stressed.
I'd be like, I've only like I was there. I was John Ford.
Yep.
Just like, by the end. But no, to your point, Luke, that is a very good point that so many like probably whole careers were lost. And like
Yep.
these people like will never be acknowledged. But this is definitely a film that would have been really cool to see for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Oh God. In 1927, the average cost of a movie ticket was 25 cents.
Nice.
Okay. What is it now? What do you guys pay? I'm
I think
curious.
technically the average price is $10,
Mm-hmm.
but most people spend more than that.
Mm-hmm.
Because of yeah.
Because like if you go to an AMC in the United States before 3 o'clock,
Yeah.
it's less than $10.
Oh, okay.
Ah.
I
I
didn't know
would have
that.
Hey, I'm going to a movie at 10:40 a.m. today.
Nice.
I'm
And that
going to
ticket costs
see
$8.
on
Nice.
So
Monday. I'm double featuring The Accountant 2 with Sinners because I'm doing the review roundup with Rob. So I've still not been
Nice.
able to get to Sinners.
I need to
nice.
see the Sinners
That
today.
starts at 20 past 10 in the morning as well.
Nice.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I'm sick of seeing things about it on Instagram.
I'm
I cannot
seeing The
wait.
Accountant 2 at 10:40
Mm.
a.m. this
Oh,
morning.
okay.
So there you go.
Oh,
I only
it's
And
watched
coming
the
double
full
first
circle.
accountant. I only just watched the first accountant like a week or not even 2 weeks ago. I'd never seen it before because I'm not a Ben Affleck fan, and I was like, oh, "This is really good. I liked it."
Like,
I
it's a
thought
I've
it
been
decent
was.
waiting
movie.
9 years.
Yeah. I
Nine
was gonna.
years for this.
It's a decent movie. Didn't need to have
Yeah.
a sequel, really.
No, but apparently the sequel's even better than the first one by like a long shot.
But there's no Anna Kendrick, right?
No, but we got John Bernthal the whole movie.
But
Mm.
I like Joan, but that's not Anna Kendrick. I'm just
I
gonna
know
say.
it's not Anna Kendrick, but
Yeah,
all I
I
wanted after
agree.
the first movie was like, I want to see a team up
Mm.
between these two brothers. And now we're getting it 9 years later. So
Mm.
there you go. Um, All-American halfback football star Johnny Mac Brown, a future star of B Westerns for over 2 decades, signed a contract with MGM, thereby becoming the first sports star to sustain a career in motion pictures. He was the forebearer for the likes of, O.J. Simpson.
Oh, that guy. Oh, he was a good actor. I need to check up what happened with with him after 90s.
And basically an infinite amount of professional wrestlers who
Mm.
are just like The Rock,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. John
Mm.
Cena.
Dave
John
Bautista.
Cena.
Do
Um,
do 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 do.
yep, there you go. Next up, we got director Victor Fleming's The Way of All Flesh. That sounds provocative. A
Mm.
presumed lost film starred Best Actor winner Emil Jannings, a German movie actor, as an early 1900s Milwaukee bank clerk named August Schilling. After the happily married family man was robbed during a Chicago bank business trip, and when he was seduced by a flirtatious blonde played by Phyllis Haver and her hired goon, he was left for dead.
Hired
The
goons.
hired goons, the mangled corpse of the crooked salon owner, their accomplice, was hit by a train and was misidentified as Schilling, and he was regarded as dead. Memory suffering Schiller, now a ruined, aging, and homeless derelict, was doomed to hide out from his family for 20 years. During the first Academy Awards ceremony, Jannings was awarded for the first ever Best Actor award for a film that was only winning film in Academy history to be missing or lost. Jannings also
Oh.
won Best Actor for a second film, The Last Command, which I did see that and did love that film. The second film was the first two American film performances. He received his Best Actor award early due to the fact that he was going home to Europe before the ceremony, making him the first no show winner. However, it didn't much matter. The category's winners had been announced 3 months before the ceremony took place.
He won
Nice.
twice. He won
Yep.
twice in the same year. He tied. Is that what you were just saying?
Yep.
Sorry, I was looking up.
In all of that,
Yeah.
it was a very long paragraph of
At one
information.
point, so for anyone listening, I told the guys at the start of the episode, well, before we started recording, that I'm on a new medication, so I'm a bit dopey, so I'm not keeping up very well. But when you were going through that whole story, I'm thinking, is this the plot of the movie or is this real life? Did this really happen? And then it took me a while to tune in and figure out it was the plot of a show or movie. Sorry.
To be honest, I was losing the plot halfway through reading plots.
Yeah, it was
Like,
it
that's
was long.
ridiculous.
Crazy.
This is not maybe the biggest point of the story, but like, was the surname Dollar taken? Like, he's playing a bank teller, but his last name is Shilling. Really? That's a bit on the nose, no?
Yeah,
Like, was Dollar taken? Like, was Dollar would be too much? Like, what the
they
what
called
the
him
fuck?
Barry Pound.
Yeah,
There you
it's like,
go. Mr. Penny.
Yes.
Paramount's first titled It opened with an early appearance by Gary Cooper and a 22-year-old starlet, Clara Bow, as resourceful lingerie department store salesgirl Betty Lou Spence, who fell for her boss, Cyrus Waltham Jr., as she soon became known as the It Girl. It meant unashamed sex appeal, hedonism, and liberation. Bo, a saucy working class girl from Brooklyn who had struck it big as a silent film actress, had already been dubbed the Brooklyn Bonfire and the hottest jazz baby in films. One of her most memorable lines in the film was, "So you're one of those Minutemen. The minute you meet a girl, you think you can kiss her." The film was also noted as having the earliest known use of a zoom lens in U.S.
Oh,
feature film in its opening shot. Is this who
wow.
Margot Robbie was supposed to be based off of for Babylon?
yes,
Think so.
heavily,
Yeah.
Yep.
heavily. So I listened
Yep.
to
Yeah.
the podcast about it, and Damien Chazelle said Margot Robbie's character is like 80-90% Clara Bow and like 10% another few actresses of that era, but heavily Clara Bow. Like the story about her dad is opening chain of restaurants with her name that actually was Clara Bow at the time. So like she actually
Hmm.
had some like burger joints also apparently in the 20s because she was massive. Like
Hmm.
yeah.
Very interesting. Very
Mm-hmm.
We talked
interesting.
about her last episode, didn't we? About
Yep.
her 20 grand per abortion.
Yep.
Yes.
I remember that.
And lastly, for
Mm.
1927, we have Leo the Lion, the famed African lion mascot of Hollywood's MGM Film Studio, was flown as a transcontinental publicity stunt nonstop from Southern California near San Diego to New York in a small plane similar to Charles Lindbergh's Spirit of St. Louis, which had made its historic flight across the Atlantic a few months earlier. The plane crashed in Arizona near the town of Gisela in a Conto National Forest canyon. 6 days following the crash, after the pilot went for help, the still caged Leo was rescued from the plane's wreckage, alive and well, but hungry and thirsty. The mascot was shipped back to Los Angeles by truck. That is not how I thought the story was going to go. It is a miracle, and
Yep.
what a wonderful way to wrap up our hit film history for
That one was real
1927.
life, right?
Yes. They should make a movie out of that.
Yeah, exactly. That'd be an amazing piece of cinema history to watch. That is worth a documentary at least.
Mm-hmm.
Netflix,
Yep.
get on it.
There you go.
They can
Do it.
call it Whim Away, the story of Leo
I
the
guess it would
Lion.
be Amazon because they own MGM now.
Yeah,
So
Oh yeah.
fair. Yeah,
Mm.
yeah,
from
yeah.
Amazon MGM Studios. I hate
That's a
that
really
every
good point.
time I say that. Sounds so
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
dirty. But whatever, that Bezos money. Alrighty, we got a little bit of box office here.
Mm.
The Jazz Singer was the highest grossing film of 1927 at $3 million. People were like, I want to hear it. And they did.
Yes.
Mm.
And two other popular films that made a decent amount of money at the time were Wings and Quit. as we discussed it there. And that's about it. That's the box office I have. Not a whole lot of data at this point, but
Mm.
$3 million in 1927 sounds pretty good to me. So
Oh
there
yeah.
you go.
I'd take it today.
But yeah, somebody gonna be like, "You want $3 million?" I'm like, "You
Yeah.
serious?"
Who do I need to kill?
Lay it on me.
Next we have our feature film, The Cat and the Canary. Relatives of an eccentric millionaire gather in his spooky mansion on the 20th anniversary of his death for the reading of his will.
Mhm.
20 years later. Directed by Paul Leni. And we have an interesting collection of silent film stars here. But let's go around. Let's start with you, Luke. What were your general thoughts on the film?
So I really enjoyed it because I am a sucker for these movies, as I've written in my letterbox review. Like I love me some movies where it's one location, set group of people, and there's a mystery at play. There might be supernatural. Most likely it's not. But hey, you're in for a ride, and yeah, for what it's worth, really enjoy myself.
How about you, Adam?
Yeah, very much the same as usual as Luke. I really liked it. I'm also a sucker for these type of movies. The older I've gotten, the more I enjoy these type of things. And it's just interesting looking back after thinking about this now at how many movies of this style I love and how many movies this movie influenced. I mean, you've got this. I
Hmm.
don't want to list them all. There's a lot of Agatha Christie, Haunting in Venice, and
Yeah.
um, yeah, anyway, I don't want to list them. There's just tons of them, and they're great. They're all just good fun. Haunted house,
Hmm.
and then yeah, like Luke said, the mystery behind it, a bit of a who done it or who's doing it type of thing.
Yep. Yep.
It's yeah, it was just a tonally awesome film to watch.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's interesting because I've watched a few haunted house films for this show because even in the 1900s, that first decade of the 20th century, you had these haunted house films that were like 10 minutes and completely relied upon special effects. So like
Hmm.
the
Mm.
idea is like they're throwing like magic tricks and everything out of nowhere every 2 seconds. And like that was the idea. This is a sustained suspenseful thriller
Mm.
Hmm.
that's
Mm.
building up the tension, building up the atmosphere. So like this is like that modern haunted house movie.
Yeah.
It
Yep.
isn't just like we don't know anything about these characters. We just drop them in a house and just throw everything at them for 10 minutes. No, this is like actually we have these characters, they're established. Something's going on. There's
Hmm.
hands reaching out
Yep.
from off
Yeah.
screen at them, which I probably like Ron Swanson giggled a little bit when that happened because like that's just a fun little thing. I'm like, that's where that's from.
Hmm.
Kind of experience because like you see that so many times in things, and like
Yeah.
I spent a
Yeah.
lot of time watching Scooby Doo growing
Yep.
up, which is like there would be no Scooby Doo without something like this. Like
Hmm.
We
this
used
is
no, even modern slashes that we have. I mean Halloween. You're talking about this creepy hand, but
yeah,
this was the creepy mask, right? And
yep.
yeah, and then it's the influences everywhere. And I mean, this movie was remade a couple more times as well, like
Hmm.
6 years later, I think,
Yep.
with Bob Hope. Mm.
They're like, this is so damn good. We're gonna run this back.
Mm.
Hmm.
Long before Disney made that an art form that annoys everybody. So, but there are certain things about this, like one, you have which you the culprit, the like specter that's kind of like haunting them throughout the film. Like it was such a great look of a character.
Hmm.
Yeah.
It's just
Yeah.
like this dude looks creepy as hell.
Hmm.
And it's just like you get the right makeup, hair. Like he has like barely any hair up on top of his head, except for like one string of hair across the top, and it's all long and shaggy in the background. And it's like as I'm making all these gestures on an audio podcast, but at least Luke and Adam are
Uh-huh.
enjoying it. And it's just like when you're making a film like this and you have like that's one of the fun things about Scooby-Doo is like
Mm-hmm.
all the creatures and the specters that are coming at them. Obviously, they're a little bit more fantastical. This just looks like a creepy dude. This is
Mm-hmm.
like a la Dr. Jekyll
Yeah.
kind of feel, like Lon
Yeah,
Chaney kind of feeling of a character.
but
But
much better.
yeah, Lenny definitely created an eerie and suspenseful atmosphere, but also knew when to have some fun
Mm-hmm.
along the way.
I
Mm,
was
Like,
gonna say
yeah.
that movie is kind of funny at the times. It's
Mm,
what I also appreciated were the playfulness with the title cards. Because this is like a
yeah.
second, I think it's
Yeah.
like a second movie we're talking about where
yeah,
the title cards could have just been as simple, and some of them, most of them in this movie are like, basic background, normal font, but occasionally it's like, what happened, or like help, and like the font
Yeah.
is all blurry and shaky just to like, oh, you should be scared. And I made me think like this is a kind of lost art of its own, because obviously
Yeah.
as we now moving to talkies, there's no need
Mm,
for title cards anymore, right? Or there
yeah.
will not, but it's I kind of wonder like, how would it be if nowadays a movie tried to have like title cards and have fun with them, not like, plain as, hey, this is some exposition, read this paragraph so you know what's happening, but more like try to incorporate it within the story. I feel like that would
Didn't
be
hundreds
so
did
good.
hundreds of beavers do that
yeah.
with this title
I doing
cards?
it, yeah, 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 yeah. I think they
Well, I was
did.
about to say back in the 70s when Mel
Mhm.
Brooks made Silent Movie,
Mm,
which is about Mel Brooks's character trying to make a silent movie in the 1970s, and it's a silent movie.
Mhm.
Meta.
Mhm.
Like like it's Mel Brooks. Of course, he was gonna have fun with all the like the title, like the dialogue cards and everything. But no, like that's the thing. Like we'll occasionally get something like Hundreds of Beavers that like it's that really old school kind of filmmaking
Yep.
and have some fun with it and stuff like that. Um, and you just have some like Hully Marshall who just has that like very distinct look to him, and this
Mhm.
film leverages close-ups really well
Mhm.
and lets its actors like really play with like the camera. I'm trying to think which actor it was with like the black frame glasses. He was silly, and I thought he was a fun character to play around with here. Some of the other things like we got there's definitely some like creeping camera movement and work that allowed like long before, like I know Adam, you referenced Halloween, like long before John
mm,
Carpenter was creeping around with cameras. Like this was a camera that it was not that long ago where the camera was static and just sat there and tried to
yeah.
capture action. It's like here it's like creeping around and lurking, and that
Mhm.
builds tension. It's like
Mhm.
we're maximizing the space here for sure.
It definitely feels more modern, even though it's still an old Hollywood movie by all
Mhm.
means, but it feels, it's I feel like it's almost like the perfect mix of old movie making and newer movie making, where it's not just everything is static, everything is just a medium shot. No, it's a blend of two. And if this had a, you know, sound or talkies, I could I could use, like when you said, Shane, a remake of Metropolis done properly. I could use a remake of this done well. Practical effects, no CGI. Give me not even like A star. I don't even need the A movie actors, the A-listers. Give me like a decent B, C movie actors, quote unquote. And somebody who understands how to have a kind of a thriller vibe. And I feel like this movie would still do well today. Like,
I feel like this would
Yeah.
be like a Tim Burton movie
mm,
or a Barry Sonnenfeld,
in their
like
prime. Yeah.
like channeling Adam's family kind of
Mm-hmm.
thing. But like this, Paul Leni is another German director from the time, channeling that German expressionism. And like this doesn't go as hard as like, you know, Cabinet of Dr. Caligari or
Mm-hmm.
Metropolis in terms of that German expressionism, but there's still the shadows, there's the hard
Mm-hmm.
close-ups and all of those kinds of elements that really does build up some eeriness and puts you into some tense moments. And this is the kind of film that, yeah, while I was watching this, I'm like, I was a little surprised this was from 1927.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
something in the water. Those German filmmakers in the 1920s were doing something really special where it's just like everybody else is like, we're figuring this stuff out. They're like, hold my beer.
Yeah.
Hold my Stein and let me go. Look
Those
behind the
Germans in
camera.
like those Germans in 1920s, they sure were a nice bunch. I hope nothing bad will happen with them, in throughout the 30s. I hope nothing. They seem like
What,
such a lovely bunch,
which
expressive.
I'm going to try to say this tactfully, but the idea, obviously, the whole entire world was affected by the rise of Nazis
Mm-hmm.
in Germany at the time. And obviously, the Holocaust is one of the worst things that ever happened in human history. But there's something that's a shame that there was such an amazing period of cinema
Mm-hmm.
in Germany in the 1920s that was completely destroyed because of the rise of Nazis. So, like, obviously, there's more important things
Yeah.
that happen because of
Mm.
the like bad things that happen, but like it's also like from a cinephile perspective, it's really a shame that like this era of incredible filmmaking had to end because
Yeah.
bigotry. They're like,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
because most of them were Jewish, and it's just like they had to flee. And then Germany took over their film industry and made it all propaganda and you know all kinds of fun stuff like that. But like
Mm-hmm.
this was such a creative and important and significant era of filmmaking and a style of filmmaking. And this film is a perfect blend of horror, perfect blend of comedy. It's just a
Mm-hmm.
fun time. Like I could even see somebody like a Gore Verbinski channeling like Mouse Hunt
Yes.
and some of his
Yeah.
horror sensibilities to make something creepy like this. I feel like it would
Yeah.
be a
Good
fun
call.
time.
No, yeah, like,
It's a good
and I
call.
also just about this movie specifically, I always admire the lightning play. Like, like you have some shadows, you have some characters like you only see the top half sometimes when it's like coming out of the shadows. And I always appreciate where they did so much with so little at the time. And those little touches, I kind of miss in modern day movies. Like obviously depending on what movie you watch, there are many great movies nowadays that have like detail here, where if you spot you can spot on like a second, third viewing. But those movies like from the 1920s specifically feel like, oh hey, like if you want to build a thriller or if you want to make a thriller, let's play with shadows. Let's play with,
Mm.
the light. If it hits you this way, your face kind of looks like monsters. Like the guy when he's underneath the bed, we know he's no harm. There's no danger because he's a silly guy. But the shot, what the aunt sees, like the eyes, how they
Yeah.
like flash almost like demon like, because that's how she's so afraid that she perceives him like that. I was like, that's inventive. I really like those tiny
Mm.
touches.
Yeah, they're really pushing the boundaries of what they can at the time, aren't they? Like you can see the experimentation through the whole
Hmm.
20s.
Mm.
So it's going to be
It,
interesting creeping into the next few years when sound is coming in and how that's been experimented with as well. It's going to be really interesting.
Hmm.
mhm. We are at an interesting time. We're at a fork in the road in the history of cinema here on our
Mm.
podcast. And this is, I feel like this is the kind of film where like silent filmmaking was really peaking.
Hmm. Hmm.
And
Yeah.
like this is all the fun things that you can do with this medium without sound. And now
Mm.
ripping the rug out from under it, and people have to figure that all out. People crowded around a plant where the microphone is
Hmm.
and trying to
Yeah,
pick up
yeah,
their audio and stuff like that.
yeah.
And it'll be interesting seeing some of the films that we watch to see maybe some of those limitations and stuff. But
Hmm.
overall, I think they do a fine job of setting up each of these characters, making some
Hmm.
fun characters, having some creepy atmosphere and filmmaking, and a creepy specter, and those fun little horror haunted movie
Oh,
tropes coming at you.
yes.
But I thought The Cat and the Canary was a fun time,
Hmm.
and it's a charming
Mm.
film that we got to watch. Um, but I guess, do either of you have anything else that you wanted to add about the film?
I just want to add the version I watched. I'm probably watched the same one as you guys on YouTube, but it was like a 4K upscale. of it.
Yeah.
And it
Yeah.
looked really good. Like the channel was called 4K something.
Mhm.
It looked really impressive.
I was gonna mention, yeah, I think I was the same one. I wasn't gonna mention the upscale. I was gonna mention the soundtrack because I started to watch
Oh,
it with a different one, and the soundtrack was more like of the time, and I'm like,
yeah, yeah,
and also there was a logo that's overlapping like the actual screen, and it didn't like that, so I was like, ah, fuck this, I'll try
yeah,
the other one, and
yeah,
the 4K one, there was a logo, but not in the movie, but on a border, but the
yeah,
music was like this haunting music, and I'm like,
yeah,
damn. Like
yeah,
again, I'm aware this music is not what the movie was made with, so I
Mm.
don't want
yeah.
to give it too much credit, but that slapped. I'm like, God, that fucking works with this movie.
What's
I
interesting is there's multiple versions.
Yes.
yeah.
Like on Amazon here in the States, you could watch on Prime, which I did, The Cat and the Canary with Haunted Spooks.
The ghoulish version, we have it here like the
Ah,
ghoulish edition or
You,
something like
you
that.
could you could rent the Ghoulish edition on
Mm.
Amazon. I'm like,
Well, in the
I'm not
UK, that's
spending
free.
money. We're watching this with Haunted Spooks instead of Ghoulish, the Ghoulish edition instead. So I think that was just very
ooh,
interesting
Hmm.
that there's a
interesting.
couple of different edits, and I'm imagining like the music's different and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
fun, interesting things
Yeah,
here. But that is another year in cinematic history, brought to you by three cool dudes from the SPDM crew. But
you're gonna
Luke
say
and Adam,
Manscaped or something, eh? Brought to you by Manscaped. Typical
we are
podcast
looking
sponsor.
for we are looking for advertisers. So if Manscaped is out there and that's a thing and want to pay us money, we'll gladly say the Cinematic Wasteland brought to you by Manscaping. But
Yeah.
Luke and Adam, thank you both so much for coming on and chat movies with me.
Always a blast.
Yeah, love it. Cheers, man.
And thank all of you for listening. Make sure to like, comment, and share on this episode. What's your favorite haunted house movie? Were you a big Scooby Doo fan? What were some of your favorite monsters that they brought in? I was always partial to like the scuba diver one with like the glowy helmet and stuff like that.
Hmm.
But also make sure to follow or subscribe wherever you listen to your podcast. The SPNM crew is always and ever expanding. There's just so many shows that it's hard for me to keep up with listening to all these podcasts every week. But some of them are some great gems, and all three of us have our own shows here on the SPDM crew. I probably have too many, but who's here to judge me except for myself? Um, but if you're interested in getting involved, make sure to reach out to us on our website if you want to start your own podcast or join as a guest on one of our own. And if you like our logo, my buddy Joe did a great job putting this one together. He has a fun Etsy store. You can go check that out as well. And if you're ever interested in making some like digital designs, basically he's done a bunch of mine, including my YouTube channel. Check it out. Check him out. And finally, most importantly, thank you as always for tuning in and supporting the Cinematic Wasteland here on the SPDM Crew Podcasting Network.